Hey guys, it's the WalterFootball.com After Dark Show for March 8th, 2024. Going to be doing some more NFL free agent signing grades. Nothing crazy today. Well, we had a big contract, so there was that. But yeah, there were six signings. Some of them were significant. Nothing was like too shocking, I don't think. But we're going to go over them. For those of you expecting to see Tom, Quacky T, he's going to be on Saturday instead of today. He had a work conflict. Which is a bit awkward because I also told Kenny beforehand that he's going to be on Saturday. So it's going to be interesting to see who shows up. Maybe we'll have a three-man show for the first time with those two. I don't think Kenny and Tom have never been on the show together before. In fact, I think they only met once. They were both at my wedding, which was about is almost 6 years ago now. It's just kind of crazy. So yeah, I don't know if they even talk to each other. So, but there is one connection, and that's Tom is watching Game of Thrones for the first time, and obviously Kenny and I used to do a Game of Thrones show every week where I used to have crackpot theories and whatnot, and it was a lot of fun until they ruined the show in the final two seasons of it. So yeah, so maybe we'll have both on. Kind of reminds me of like a long time ago. I was interested in two girls. I invited them both to the same party. And I thought like if they both showed up, I was like, oh, this is gonna be awkward. But I'm like, well, I think there's a chance one bails, and that's exactly what happened. So it panned out. So maybe one of Kenny or Tom bails. So either way, we should have one person on the show as a guest on Saturday. So that would be fun. So please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would mean a lot to us. If you really want to help support the show, please consider super chats. We get nothing from YouTube ads. I say this all the time, like a broken record at this point, but it's true. Like we really get nothing from YouTube ads. I'm actually looking at yesterday's revenue for the show. Is actually $1.96, which is a lot more than usual. Because I'm looking at like these amounts like 71 cents, 42 cents, 40 cents, 71 cents, 90 cents. Oh, that's a nice one. So yeah, $1.90 is pretty crazy. So you kind of see what we're dealing with here. So and any contributions you can give us really mean a lot. It just keeps the show going. And yeah, I mean, it really helps us out. And like every time we get a super chat, like after the show, if there's a co-host, like it'll be like me and Tom or me and Jacob. We're like, wow, that was awesome. Can't believe we got a super chat. So yeah, if you really want to consider it, definitely, please do it. So Patrick saying, but Walt, the all important State of the Union's on. I wish Dave Smith was running. Isn't the State of the Union over though? I mean, it started at 9. Like, is Biden still talking? Like, that'd be insane. There's actually a bet on BetUS that'll only last 65 minutes. So I think it went over because the Timcast show that I like to watch, they were doing it live, and they ended the show at like I want to say like 10:40 something, and so I assume it ended around then. I didn't listen yet. I was going to listen to the live reaction. But I know he slurred like 76 words or something like that. He called Lincoln Riley. Did he really? I'm not surprised. Yeah, I assume there was some more gaffes. I look forward to hearing it. I also wish Dave Smith was running. I think he didn't run because he has two young kids, which makes sense. Like someone who with two young kids, I can tell you that like you have no time to do anything, and like I couldn't imagine like running for president or any office really, like with two young kids at home. Like maybe when they're both like teenagers or something. Not that I'm considering running for your office. I think that I'd like I would actually have some plans for like governorship. Like if I were to become governor, I would say like I would ban all federal employees from entering the state unless they have permission. I'd go to Bitcoin instead of the US dollar. I'd exempt all of the constituents from paying federal taxes. I have these great plans, but I don't think I'd ever want to be president though. I don't know. I think governor is like the highest I would go. Not that I'm considering running, but like I was just thinking about like what I would do if I were running a state. But yeah, I do wish Dave Smith was running, but I think he will run in the future. I don't know who the libertarian candidate is going to be. I heard it's going to be. I heard they're going to try to have RFK as a libertarian candidate, even though he's not libertarian. But I think it's because like they want to get him a lot of votes, because if I think if you get 10% of the votes, then you have to be on stage in the debate. Not that not that the debates are mandatory these days, but if they do have a debate, someone who got 10% of the votes, like that party, would be on stage for debates. So I would like to see that. Even though I'm not like a big fan of RFK, I don't hate the guy. I think he's better than Biden. Like there are some things I really disagree with him on, but I do agree with him on some stuff. So if he were to win over Biden, I'd be happy. But he's not my first choice or anything. Patch saying I'm rooting for Tulsi as VP, super smart on foreign affairs like Syria, especially since she was in the army. Yeah, I like Tulsi. I'm not a fan of her some of her domestic policies, but she may have changed that. It was a while ago. That was like back when she was running for the first time in 2016, back when she kind of or no, it was in 2020 when she kind of like destroyed Kamala Harris's campaign. Yeah, that was back in 2019 when it was the debates. I do like her though. I think it's going to be Tulsi or Kristi Noem. I think it's going to be a woman, because I think they want to capture the suburban female vote, because Trump was pretty weak with that. But I do think it has to be a woman because of that. Like that's where he was weakest, so it kind of makes sense. Bagley says Tulsi is a grifter. Wow, I fell for it back in 2020. Yeah, I wonder why you think she's a grifter. I think she seems legit. Like I said, I don't agree with all of her policies and stuff like that. Like. But I do think like the foreign stuff is good. It's gonna be Elise Stefanik. Okay. Yeah, I mean that I think she would be good as well. Yeah, like I said, I think it has to be a woman. My favorite pick would be Carrie Lake. I think she's great. Like she actually sat down with Timcast IRL. Like I think she did it 3 times, and I think like I heard the story where like they always ask a political person or a politician when they're on, they go like, is anything like can we not ask you anything? And she said like, no, you can ask me anything. And like she was on the show, a political show, for 2 hours 3 times, and like I thought she was great. And I really think she did win Arizona. It just some shenanigans involved there. But I know she's running for Senate, so I don't think she's going to be the VP. But she would be my pick personally. But I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, at least Stefanik would be. I think it would be good. Tulsi as well, and like I said, Kristi Noem, I think is another possibility. Yeah, I mean, if you guys keep the political questions going, I'll definitely answer. I'll answer anything. But I'll get into some of these free agent signing grades in the meantime. So we had Ezra Cleveland. He resigned, which is funny because we had on the show yesterday, I pulled up the trade grades page, and one of the commenters noticed the Ezra Cleveland trade because it was the last trade to occur before Ryan Bates. And she's like, oh, Ezra Cleveland's gone. We have to find a new guard to sign. And it's funny that he was resigned today for 3 years, $28.5 million. So Ezra Cleveland played well in Minnesota, but for whatever reason, he really struggled in Jacksonville last year. I don't know if it was the scheme or anything like that, or if he wasn't able to gel after moving to a new team during the middle of the season. He is talented though, and he's still young. He's 26, so he could rebound. But I just think that like for how he played in the second half of last year, this is definitely an overpay. And if he continues to play that way, the Jaguars are definitely going to regret the signing. But on the other hand, like he could definitely revert to how he was in Minnesota. And if he does, then this is a good move because the Jaguars really need to protect Trevor Lawrence, who didn't have great protection last year. So yeah, I mean, Cleveland's a solid guard. He at least he was before moving to Jacksonville. So I can see this panning out. I gave it a C at the moment. I could maybe argue for a C plus. But I do think this is a slight overpay at the moment, and based on how Cleveland played last year, it could end up being poor for the Jaguars. Next move is Dolphins signing Jonnu Smith, 2 years, $10 million. He was cut by the Falcons recently. And I said that, like, if you listen carefully, you can hear a mustachioed man in Pittsburgh crying that he couldn't get his guy. And of course, I'm referring to the man with the intergalactic mustache, Arthur Smith. Kenny, by the way, still doesn't believe that mustache was really an alien being that was sucking the brain power out of Arthur Smith. But maybe one day he will see that I was correct. But no, Johnny Smith, I think is a fine player. He had a decent year last year, although his stats were kind of buoyed by Arthur Smith kind of forcing the ball to him instead of his good players. But Johnny Smith is not that bad. He's all right. $5 million for 2 years per year for 2 years is I guess like the going rate. Maybe slight overpay, but seems fine. It's kind of a curious signing because Mike McDaniel just doesn't seem to like having tight ends in his offense, and now he does. We haven't seen a productive tight end in his offense, so I don't know if he's changing his tune or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I could see Johnny Smith having a decent season next year as like the third option. They don't really have a viable number 3 receiver beyond the top 2 guys. And if one of them were to get hurt, like I feel like Johnny Smith would be pretty valuable. So I can see this panning out. I give it a B-. Like I said, maybe a slight overpay. But I think that it's a fine move. Bagley says I'd rather have Arthur Smith's mustache as president than either major party candidate. Well, I don't know how we have to kind of figure out what Arthur Smith's mustache would do. Like, would he abolish the IRS and the FBI and CIA? Like, if you were to do that, I'm all on board. But I mean, he could be worse too. The mustache made some really bad decisions last year. So what if he? I don't know. What if he's like super pro-war? So I don't know. It's very risky, I think. Although I don't know, the guy in the office right now is pretty bad. So it's hard to be worse than him. Saints re-signed Tyrann Mathieu, 2 years, $13 million. So this is kind of a weird one. Tyrann Mathieu played really well last year. He had obviously a great start to his career. Then he had some bad seasons because he was dealing with injuries and he couldn't seem to get healthy. And now it seems like he's back to his former self. Like he's really good again. So 2 years, $13 million for a player like Tyrann Mathieu is really good. However, there are 2 problems here, potential problems. One is that Mathieu turns 32 in May, so he could regress. I don't know if he's going to play as well as he did last year. Like, even if he doesn't regress that much, like it's still hard to believe that like a 32-year-old safety is not going to drop off even a little bit. So, the Saints, you could say the Saints are paying pass production, but 2 years, $13 million is not an overpay by any means. So, yeah, I think it's a fine price. There just could be some regression. That's my first issue. The second issue is that, man, it feels like the Saints just aren't going anywhere. It seems like they keep spinning their tires. And like they're never going to be great with this current roster construction, but they're never going to be nearly as bad unless they suffer a slew of injuries. They're never going to be bad enough to get a franchise quarterback. And like, that's what they need, I think. And they just don't have one right now. And I think they're kind of doomed to be an 8-9, 9-8 purgatory for a long time. Especially with their cap situation, if they keep this going. So I don't know. If I were in charge of the Saints, I'd blow everything up. I'd trade everyone except for Chris Olave, and I guess some other. They have a couple young defensive players, but I think almost everyone except for Olave would be free to go. I'd keep Kentrey Miller obviously and whatnot. Like the rookies and second year players, I'd keep. Everyone else would go, and I try to tank for Shedeur Sanders or Drew Aller or whoever else comes up in next year's draft, or who knows, maybe you go for Arch Manning in a couple years. But I think the Saints need to start over because they're never going to go deep in the playoffs with this construction, just never. And so like that's the reason why I'm not crazy about the signing. Like even though, like I said, Mathieu for 2 years, $13 million, like that's a great price for him. Like if there's a Super Bowl contender who signed Mathieu for that rate, like I'd give this an A+. I just can't get there because of those reasons. So I gave this a B. So I definitely don't hate the signing or anything. I just think that the Saints are kind of doomed. So it's unfortunate. Patrick says Woodrow Wilson, still worst president ever. Completely agree. Espionage Act, Federal Income Tax Act got us into World War One, which led to World War Two. Arrested anti-war protesters, created a Federal Reserve. Yeah, I didn't see Federal Reserve until those final three words, and I was like, you're missing the big one. So yeah, definitely, he was absolutely the worst, like by far. I don't think people realize how terrible the Federal Reserve is. Like people may know about it, or like they've definitely heard about it, but man, they just devalue our dollar like crazy. They just print money into thin air. It's insane. Like not only do we get taxed like crazy, we also lose money. We also lose our spending power, which is why like I'm a huge fan of Bitcoin. Not a surprise to see it like near all-time highs. Like, it hit the all-time high recently. I think it's going to go to 100K. I said this before. I think Bitcoin is going to go to 100K, and then I think it's going to drop like considerably, kind of like it did last time. Like it went to like 50. I don't know what it went to last time. It went to like 60K or something like that, and then it dropped to like 19K. It's not going to go that far because of the happening that's in April. So like I think the lowest it could drop is like 40K. So I can see like going to 100K, and then like something happens, there's negative sentiment or something, and it plummets to 40K, and then it shoots up to like 200K like in a year after that. Like I think that's going to happen. So I think it's just going to wait for the dip. And like who knows, maybe the dip will never happen, but I think there will be a dip to like 40K like one more time. And then just I would scoop it up, but this is not financial advice. This is just what I'm doing. Bagley says my friend is a Falcons fan, and he calls free agency Christmas in March because he gets to watch the Saints flail around in cap hell every year. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that the Saints, like when Kenny and I were talking about them a couple weeks ago, they were like 85 million over the cap, which is crazy. Now the cap was announced higher than everyone expected, so like the Saints don't have to cut too many people, but they're going to have to make some moves. I know they just restructured Cameron Jordan, but they're going to have to definitely get rid of some players or just get super creative and kick the can down the road, kind of like the Federal Reserve. It's just I can imagine any Falcons, Panthers, or Bucks fan gets to watch with glee as the Saints keep screwing up for the future. It's like if they draft really well, they can get out of it down the road. This is what Kenny and I talked about. But like if the Saints don't draft well in the future, when they really are stuck up against the wall with these cap issues, like they're going to be awful. Like they're like, I'm talking 0-17 bad. Like it's going to get really bad for them. So they do have a good drafting front office right now, but like who knows what's going to happen down the road. I imagine that like when the crap hits the fan for them, like those guys are going to be out. I just it'll be interesting to see what happens if like whoever replaces those guys, like if they draft well, then they can get out of it. Bagley says you should make a president's tier list on Wildcard Wednesday. I'm curious how your compares to mine. That would be fun. The problem is like I don't know a lot about like some of the presidents, like in the like the 10 to 25 range. Like some of them I just don't know. Like some of them just didn't do much. It's kind of hard. But that would be fun though. Like I'd have to think about it, and that'd be pretty cool. I'd have to do some research on it just to make sure I don't miss anything. But that'd be awesome. Saints are funny. Patrick says that tier list would be awesome. FDR also going F tier for me for World War II provocation, intermittent of Japanese Americans, New Deal. FDR was really bad, and of course he had 4 terms to be really bad. So luckily that's not the case anymore. We have 2-term limits now. Because I don't know, it's just he was pretty bad. Not as bad as Woodrow Wilson though. Bears re-signed Jalen Johnson. This is the big one. 4 years, $76 million and $54 million guaranteed. So this is a lot of money, but Jalen Johnson is a really good player. He's it's crazy that he's not even 25 yet. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL last year. And like these things fluctuate. Like we've seen cornerbacks have a great season and then regress to like above average status and then be really good again. But we haven't really seen Jalen Johnson dip yet. Like last year was a great year for him. He did miss some time at the beginning of the year, but when he came back, he and Montez Sweat joining the team, like that was the catalyst for the Bears defense playing really well down the stretch. And so I thought that losing Jalen Johnson would be pretty crushing for the Bears. As someone who is going to bet the Bears at 50-1 to win the Super Bowl, I got this is one of the things I was looking out for is Jalen Johnson. I know they franchised him, but it was kind of like the Chiefs did with L'Jarius Sneed. Like they franchised him and they're going to trade him. Like I didn't want to see that happen with Jalen Johnson because he's so important to that defense. So now that he's back, I think I'm pretty confident to bet the 50-1. Although I do want to see what they do in free agency. So I'm not going to get there quite yet. I want to see them sign some good players. I don't want to see them squander the money like the Jaguars did a couple years ago. When the Jaguars had the most cap space in the NFL and they signed a bunch of bums for big money. Like I want to see the Bears make some really good signings. And then I'm definitely on board with the 50-1, which I still think is a good number. But if they sign like crap players for big money, then I'm going to be less bullish on them. So that's kind of like that, and the Jalen Johnson stuff was what I was waiting on. So I was glad to see this. I usually don't grade big contracts like that in the A range because it's not much of a bargain. But like considering that Johnson's like not even 25 yet, he could still get better. And in a couple years, we could look back at this contract and think like, wow, the Bears really got Johnson for $76 million over 4 years. Like this seems like a steal. So even though it seems like a lot of money in a couple years, we might be thinking like, wow, they got a good deal on Johnson. FDR was below average, not terrible. Wilson is in my bottom 5, I'm pretty sure. I want to hear who else is in your bottom 5, Bagley. I think Wilson was definitely my worst. I can't think of anyone else who was worse than him. But yeah, he's definitely pretty bad. I don't think FDR was in my bottom 5 either. He might be bottom 10. I'd have to really like sit down and draw it out. But yeah, he's pretty bad. All right. So Rams re-signed Kevin Dotson, 3 years, $48 million, with $32 million guaranteed. I think if I'm a Steeler fan, I'm really pissed right now because like they've had offensive line issues for years. Like this is going back to Ben Roethlisberger's final years with the team. They haven't blocked well at all for a while, and they had Kevin Dotson, like he was starting for them. It's not like he was a backup; they didn't know about him. Like he was starting. And they just let him go. And he goes to the Rams, has his best year yet, and signs this contract for 3 years, $16 million per year. And you know, like if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm like, wait, what the hell? Like, why'd we get rid of this guy? So the Rams really benefited from him. And I think that like someone like Kevin Dotson was so huge for the offensive production last year. Like everyone knows about Kyren Williams coming on and Puka Nacua having this amazing rookie year and Matthew Stafford playing well, Cooper Kupp, Cooper Kupp, coming back from injury and whatnot. And like, yeah, those guys are great and everything, but the offensive line playing well was a key to that. And Dotson was one of their best offensive linemen. I think that the Rams had to re-sign this guy, $48 million for 3 years. I think it's doable. You know, it's like $16 million per year for a guard may seem like a lot to some people, but like quarterbacks, like Charlie talked to teams and like he came away like kind of, I don't know if he was surprised, but I was a little bit surprised, but like a lot of quarterbacks hate interior pressure more than edge pressure. And like, yeah, everyone makes a big deal about these great edge rushers and having a left tackle. They even made a movie about it with Michael Orr, Sandra Bullock and everyone. But quarterbacks really hate interior pressure a lot. Like Drew Brees was notorious for hating it. And I imagine Stafford is kind of the same way. I feel like these non-mobile quarterbacks hate interior pressure a lot. So making sure that Stafford's protected, especially in his final years, I think this is essential. I think this is a great move, re-signing Dotson. So yeah, Stafford can throw to Cupper and Nacua and Kyren Williams. Dotson, we have Dotson here. See, no one cares. Okay, so Chiefs re-sign Drew Tranquill, and so this is the last one. 3 years, $19 million. So it's like not too long ago that the Chiefs had major issues at linebacker. Like they had one of the worst linebacking cores in the NFL. And so they got some guys, Willie Gay being one of them, Bolton, the second round pick, they got Bolton, and then Drew Tranquill here. So they have some good linebackers now. And Tranquil's like he's kind of like a jack of all trades linebacker, but he's pretty good in coverage. So someone like him is like pretty essential to have in the middle of the defense. And giving him 3 years, 19 million, it's fine. I feel like he's not like a star or anything. Like he's not a great interior lineman like Dotson or an amazing cornerback like Jalen Johnson. He's not one of those highly ranked players. But I gave him 2.5 stars out of 5 in my free agency rankings. And so like a deal like this for slightly more than $6 million per year, it's I think it's pretty good. It's like the going rate, I think, for someone like Tranquil. So I gave it a B. I think it's a solid move, just retaining him. It's not a great move, but it's pretty good. So yeah, so that's about it for the free agent signings. We have updated rankings and whatnot. Like I said yesterday, we used to just have a top 100, but now my development team made it so I can update through Excel. And so now this is now a top 543. So this is going to be updated all throughout free agency, like this list, not just this top list, but like through positions and everything like that. We have a rumors link. I don't know if it works. Let's see. Yeah, it's not found. I did have some rumors posted. Maybe it's here. Oh, maybe it is here. Oh, there we go. I think. Yeah, let's see. I don't know if this is updated, and it looks sloppy because some of this stuff is duplicated. Yeah, so we made a transition to WordPress, and so there have been some hiccups here and there, and like this is like I think we're into like month 7 of WordPress, and so like this is the first time we had to update our rumors page, and so like it didn't work, and so they put it on the subdomain debacle.walterfootball.com, which is like not ideal because like we don't get any ads on this. I hear the Steelers have interest in signing Russell Wilson. Why? Just I don't quite understand why the Steelers would sign Russell Wilson. I think it makes like if out of all the destinations for Russell Wilson, I guess like it's kind of up there because they don't have anything at quarterback. But if they sign Russell Wilson, they still won't have anything at quarterback. Jarrett Stidham started in favor of him last year, so I don't know if Russell Wilson's going to be better than Pickett or Rudolph. I really don't know that. So I think that would be a mistake to sign Russell Wilson. But yeah, so we have rumors here. It'll look better, I think, in the coming days, and we also should have draft rumors too. But there's no link. Look, there might be a link to that. Let's see. Yeah, there is. So we have a couple. The Redskins are really into Drake May, apparently. I don't know if that's true. But we know the Patriots like Jaden Daniels over Drake May, as Charlie Campbell reported. All signs support to the Bears drafting quarterback number 1 overall. Kind of knew that, but still. We have as if the situation presents itself, the Giants will draft the quarterback this April, according to Jordan Renan. I mean, if they can trade into the top 3, I think that's true. I don't know if they draft McCarthy. Like they definitely could at 6. I think that'd be a huge mistake. It'd be like what they did with Daniel Jones in 2019. They're reaching for a quarterback without a good roster to support that quarterback. Like it's just not going to work. And they're going to be making the same mistake. And like as Albert Einstein said, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting different results. And it feels like the Giants would be insane to draft McCarthy at 6. But like if one of the top 3 were to fall to them, then it wouldn't be a reach, So I think that like that's the only way it would make sense. Or if they got to trade up to the top 3, which I just don't see happening. I think Redskins and Patriots both take quarterbacks after the Bears go with Caleb Williams. The Raiders will be hyper focused on quarterbacks at the combine. So I guess that was going to happen. I know the Raiders met with every quarterback. So I just don't know if they go with a quarterback at 13. Like they could for sure, but they already have a young quarterback. I think it's more likely that they go after a veteran. I think they'd love to get Cousins. If not him, then Justin Fields. Like one of those 2 guys. I think that makes the most sense. Because they already have like what was O'Connell, like a 4th round pick? Like why would they just take another young quarterback? When like O'Connell didn't play that bad. It was just the offensive line that just didn't give him much of a chance, but he has some good games. I don't know if there's anything else here. Yeah, it's still this page is going to be loaded with rumor stuff. So All right, so it's hard to be worse. You're talking about? Are you talking about Tyrell Dotson? Yeah. So Smitty says, "Yo, Walt, send me an invite if you want to chop it up right now. It's about time to go live." Well, how about we could do a show maybe next week or something like that, because I have to get going. I have to unfortunately do my taxes. I have all these papers here. You can see I have to go through all my bank statements. This is corporate taxes, not personal taxes. I have to. I kind of forgot about it, so I have to get these in. I can't do my personal taxes until I submit my corporate taxes. So we're talking about Federal Reserve and IRS earlier. So yeah, I have to get to that, and then go to my accountant tomorrow and everything. So that's what I'm going to do for the next few hours before I go to bed. But yeah, I mean, Smitty, if you want to do a show together next week or the week after or whenever, actually next week's free agency. So if you want to do a show in 2 weeks from now, I'm definitely down. So yeah, I think it'd be awesome to do a show together. Cassandra says Sims took a lot of heat today for his take on May. I didn't hear anything about his take on May. I was running around with my kids all day. So I wonder what he says. Let me look it up. Sims Drake May. Okay, he's a quote here. It says, it's Chris Sims, not Phil Sims. There are two Simses. Caleb Williams is one of the greatest quarterbacks that I've ever evaluated coming out of the draft. He's got it all. I feel as confident with Caleb Williams as I did with CJ Stroud last year, as I did with Joe Burrow, as I did with Patrick Mahomes. Okay, that's definitely not the right quote. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you could tell me what he said, I'm trying to find it. Just looking on Twitter. Chris Sims said Drake May is a worse prospect than Will Levis. Well, look, I mean, I think it's kind of hard to be worse than Will Levis. I mean, Will Levis still went second round, so you're saying that like Chris Sims is saying that Drake May should go third round or later. But like at the same time, that there have been so many first round bust quarterbacks, ahead of like the 2018 draft. If someone said, "Oh, I think that Sam Darnold is going to bust as hard as EJ Manuel or something like that," like people would have called that person crazy, but both guys were major busts. So I think that I don't think it's crazy to think that Drake May could be a complete bust. I don't think he will be, but I'm not in love with him. I'd rather Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Like I think Drake May is third for me. I'm not in love with JJ McCarthy either. So I think like once you get past the first two, I think you can find major flaws with maybe not major flaws with May, but like you can find major flaws with the other guys. So I don't know. Chris Sims was a former quarterback, so he might see something that we don't. So he could be right, but he could also be wrong. That tends to happen. So yeah, let's do it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a couple weeks from now. Yeah, let's do it. John says Sims had Stroud and Levis ahead of Bryce Young last year. So he's right before. Also, Allen and Lamar ahead of Darnold and Rosen. I was so down on Rosen when he came out. We just knew that like Charlie and I knew, and Charlie brought this to my attention that like Josh Rosen just didn't love football. He just had other interests. And so I wasn't surprised at all that Josh Rosen bust. I had him lower than every quarterback that year. Darnold, I'm kind of surprised on. I thought Darnold would be good. But I did love Josh Allen's potential, Lamar Jackson. I love those guys. I thought the Vikings. I was talking to when I was in Minnesota, it was ahead of that draft. I was in Minnesota for the Super Bowl. I was actually staying at Kenny's place. But I met with a football writer up there, and he's a Vikings fan, and so we were talking about how the Vikings would approach the draft, because remember, this is back when Case Keenum was the quarterback, and so like the Vikings had to do something. So I thought that and they ended up signing Kirk Cousins, but like I thought what I would do, it was just kind of try to re-sign Keenum or they had Teddy Bridgewater at the time too, like re-sign one of those guys for like a 1-year deal and then draft Lamar Jackson at the end of the first round. And then Lamar Jackson was raw at the time. So they could have started Keenum for half a year, or Teddy Bridgewater for half a year, and then started Lamar Jackson in the second half of the year, and then beyond. And like I think that's what they should have done. Instead, they signed Kirk Cousins, and like that wasn't a bad solution. Cousins got them to the playoffs and everything like that. But yeah, clearly they should have gone the other route. They overpaid Cousins. Like it's not that like Cousins is never bad. Like I think people like to give Cousins a lot of crap, especially for his primetime performances. But it's like more so that like he was just overpaid, and like because he was so overpaid, they couldn't keep their great roster together that they went to the NFC Championship with, and like that was the major problem. Spinny says hit that thumbs up. Walt is a man. Thank you so much. Yeah. Please hit the thumbs up. Really means a lot. Subscribe. Anything like that would be awesome. He ranked May the number 6 quarterback in the draft. Well, I mean, if you hate a guy, you hate a guy. I can see that. Like I said, I was super down on Josh Rosen, so I had him way low as well. But some people like them. Sim City, love that game. Sim Tower was great. I love Sim Tower. JD5 is gonna be better than Lamar. Yeah, I mean, he has the potential for sure. I could definitely see that. John says the Bills fan has screened wrong Josh when they drafted Allen, so I'm an idiot. And look, it's easy to get draft picks wrong. Some of the best front offices in the NFL make bad picks in the first round. Like, look at the Ravens. Like, they're one of the best front offices in the NFL, and they've drafted some busts in the first round. Like, they drafted Brashad Perriman in the first round. They made some other mistakes. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but they've drafted some other busts too. So like, it's impossible to be right all the time, and like people get flack for evaluating a prospect wrong. I've certainly done that in the past. Teams get criticized for it, but it's hard. It's hard to evaluate these guys. Like, you don't have all the data. You don't know how they're going to perform on the highest level. You don't know how they're going to react when they have all this money. It's just a different lifestyle, and you just don't know. You can make educated guesses, but it's still hard to do. Put Knicks at number 3. I mean, he has potential, I guess. I wouldn't put him that high, but it's like I said, like if you don't like May, then someone else has to be 3. I'm not a fan of McCarthy either, so I don't hate that. I wouldn't do it, but I don't hate that. Right, I'm right there with you, John. Sue says, do you have Johnny Football as the first rounder in the 2014 draft? I mean, I did. I thought he was going to be good. I didn't think he was going to be great. I don't think, but I didn't think he was going to be a bust like he was. But he was, like I said. It's like you don't know how these guys will react with the money and the fame and being on the highest level. Like, Johnny Football was the prime example of that. I think the talent was there. He just, I guess, he got caught in the limelight and everything like that, and he just never panned out. It's kind of crazy. Everyone passed Lamar Jackson. Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone passed on Tom Brady. How many times he fell to the 6th round? Russell Wilson fell to the 3rd round. Brock Purdy was the final pick in the draft. Like, these guys fall. Some players aren't drafted. Some great players aren't drafted. Was it Arian Foster? I think wasn't drafted. And so, yeah, I mean, players fall all the time, and it's really difficult to evaluate players. And Charlie and I know some like really good talent evaluators, and like they do a great job of guessing how these players are going to go. But like, even they'll make some mistakes. It's really tough to evaluate these guys. John says, what quarterback prospect were you most wrong about? Mine was definitely Jake Locker. I think I was the most wrong about Jimmy Clausen. I got talked into Jimmy Clausen being really good. He was really good at Notre Dame. I like that he was coached by Charlie Weiss. He was coached in a pro style offense, which is like big back then. Now it's like, who cares now? But that was like important back then. I thought that like and we didn't know how bad Charlie Weiss was back then either. So like the fact that he was coached by Charlie Weiss, former Patriot coach. I thought that like he was going to be NFL ready. He's going to go like be good right away. And like the fact that this is what got me. Not that like I should lean on other evaluators, but Mel Kiper had Clausen as his number 4 prospect. I'm like, and I thought and like I made my evaluation before that, and I was like, okay, I think Clausen's gonna be good. And then I saw Kuiper had number 4. I was like, okay, all right, I'm definitely right about this, right? And so actually, I wrote an article for USC Today's magazine back in when was Clausen drafted? 2010. And I wrote, I wrote that the Rams draft. Well, back then, everyone thought that the Rams draft Ndamukong Suh number 1. I wrote that the Rams would draft Jimmy Clausen number 1, just clearly a dumb move that they would have made. Instead, they drafted Sam Bradford, who obviously didn't pan out all that well either. I mean, he was much better than Jimmy Clausen, but the Rams should have drafted Ndamukong Suh, it turns out. That was, no, I think it was 2011. That was the year that Tim Tebow came out too. I remember, so like everyone got that wrong because one of my friends is a professor at Temple, and he writes for like different publications like the Philadelphia Inquirer and whatnot, as just kind of like just a guest writer and like freelancer. And I pitched him my idea. I'm like, yeah, I'm writing for USA Today. I'm gonna write about how the Rams draft Jimmy Clausen. And he's like, no, the Rams would draft Tim Tebow. So like he got it wrong too. Like everyone got it wrong, like except for the people who thought that the Rams should draft Ndamukong Suh. It's just funny. Mike says, okay, drafting isn't easy, but shouldn't they be all doing much better? I think some teams should be doing much better. Like the top tier teams, like I think like the hit rate for first round picks is like 50% league wide. I feel like the top teams, their hit rate for first round picks is like 75, 80%. Like you just don't have all the data. So I think it's easy to be wrong like 20% of the time. But like if you're a bad team, you're going to be drafting with a hit rate of like 35%, 30% in the first round. And obviously it matters where you're drafting in the first round. Like bottom half of the first round is much tougher than the top half. But like there are certain teams that tend to draft busts way more often. So yeah, they should be doing better for sure. But I think I mentioned this last week, and it's like kind of interesting. Like this will never happen because the NFL is just like they tend to hire like bad. Some teams just tend to hire bad people and keep them employed because they want a good face. But like hypothetically, if like you were to rank in the world, just like based on pure talent, like based on like how well these guys are drafted, you were to go like 1 to 32, the best talent evaluators in the world, 1 to 32, and you were to place them all on NFL teams right now. Like the 32nd best guy, which would normally be like probably the top 5 in any NFL season, like he probably would get fired because like he would be the worst in the NFL. Like even though he'd be one of the best in reality, like in this hypothetical scenario, he'd be one of the worst. So it's like, oh, it's funny that's all relative. But yeah, I mean, some of these teams should hire better GMs. Like Matt Millen, for crying out loud, was a GM for almost a decade. Like that was crazy. Like he drafted so many busts in the first round, and it's not like he had picks late. He had picks in the top 10 that he whiffed on year after year. Like Charles Rogers, I think was number 2. Like Mike Williams, number 9. And like so many busts that he drafted. It's Joey Harrington, number 3. Like it's crazy, and he kept the job forever because he was good with the media, at least until he called Johnny Morton a 6-letter word that begins with F. I don't want to get demonetized and lose my $1.90. You guys know what it is. Yeah, that was like the end of Matt Millen's career. But his GM career anyway. But and then he went on to say weird things on TV, and I made fun of him. Mel Kiper said he'd resign if Clausen was a bust. I remember that. Yeah. He loved Clausen. And like that, like I said, he kind of sold me on Clausen. Like I already liked him. But like he was like, I was like, oh, Mel Kiper loves Clausen. Okay, I love Clausen too. Because I already liked him. So yeah, unfortunately that didn't pan out. Mike says, I mean, I could do better than most GMs with the dartboard. You're not wrong. Feels like some of these GMs should draft with the dartboard. Like if Matt Millen drafted with the dartboard, like he would have kept his job longer, especially if he didn't call Johnny Morton that word. I don't know. I still want to know what happened there. Like he just yelled at Johnny Morton and called him the 6-letter F word. It's just like, I don't know. Yeah, he went kind of nuts, and then he went on to say, like I said, weird things on TV, very weird things. It's created a great bit. So I'm glad that Millen had this career trajectory that he had. So anyway, thanks so much for you guys for watching, commenting. Really appreciate it. Like I said, I have to get to this tax stuff, unfortunately, which is gonna be a headache because I have to go through all my all my these balance sheets that I have in the bank. I have to like determine. I have to be like the expense, income, ignore, and I have to give it to my accountant. So it's gonna be a lot of fun these next 3 hours. Just gonna have some TV on in the background and just do this stuff. So it's I have to do this once a year like everyone else. So yeah, I'm waiting for your next. As Stu says, I'm waiting for your next million grade. I can't wait. Yeah, I can't like it's tough because like I can't like just give it out right away because like there could always be something worse. So I always have to like wait. And there's always just one that stands out as Millen, or maybe two. Like they stand out as Millen grade. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. So, all right, guys, I have to get going here. But yeah, like I said, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for commenting. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. Like I said, Saturday, I'm going to be back with Tom and or Kenny. Going to be, I don't know what's going to happen. I told them both to come on the show, and maybe they'll both come on. But like as with what happened with those two girls, maybe one will cancel and one will be on. So yeah, Mike says, get those corporate taxes done before Biden raises the corporate tax rates. Yes. Payroll taxes are the worst. I could do a 2 hour long episode on payroll taxes. They are disgusting. If you guys don't know, if you don't run a business, you just may not know this. Payroll taxes, I have to pay money for each employee I employ every week, and it comes out to be like I'd say $1,100 per week that I have to send to the federal government. Now, here's the thing: like if I let go of an employee, if I fire an employee, that goes down. Like if I let go of one of my employees, that'll go down to $700 a week. If I give someone a raise, or if I hire someone new, let's just say if I hire someone new, it'll go to $1,500 a week. If I give someone a raise, it'll probably go to like $1,200 a week. If I give someone a pay reduction, it'll go down to like $1,000 a week. So I'm basically incentivized not to have people employed. Now think about that for a second. Like, why would the government incentivize me not to employ people? And you could probably figure that out if you think really hard about it. So, so we had the discussion earlier in the episode with the Federal Reserve, and I think they're involved in that. So I think they just want people to be poor and unemployed and just be on the government's, just be relying on the government. So that's why they want that. So yeah, like I said, I could just do a long rant about payroll taxes. They're absolutely disgusting. If it weren't for them, I could hire another employee and just try to grow the site. But like, it just feel like every week, every Thursday, my accountant emails me like, this is coming out. Like, okay, thanks. Yeah, it just sucks. But yeah, anyway, yeah, we can rant about taxes another time. I have to get this done. It's already midnight. So yeah, like I said, I'll be back Saturday, and then of course next week, free agency. So we're gonna have shows about all the signings and stuff like that with Jacob and everyone else. So all right, guys, I will talk to you next week. Have a great rest of the weekend.